Within days, school... For Mao, communism could be achieved only through radical means, through continuing revolution, a never-ending process of struggle and change. Through the columns of China's main newspaper, he called on young people to attack party officials and replace them with true revolutionaries. Mao Zedong had unleashed the great proletarian cultural revolution.
For the first time since 1949, our supreme leader, Chairman Mao, a godlike figure, called on people at the very bottom of society, people like us students with no work and no profession. He told us to rebel against party officials. This had a tremendous impact on us.
Young people took to the streets. They wrote wall posters attacking their teachers and party officials. Within days, schools and universities were in turmoil.
Chairman Mao says, Marxism consists of thousands of truths, but they all boil down to one phrase: it's right to rebel.
Students banded together to carry out Mao's orders. They called themselves Red Guards. In September 1966, schools did not open for the academic year.
This was the first chance we had to break away from our parents, to do whatever we wanted.
Mao encouraged the Red Guards to attack Western influences and to destroy the four olds: old ideas, old culture, old customs, old habits. Without this destruction, he said, socialism cannot be achieved. The Red Guards tore down street signs and put up new revolutionary names. They ransacked museums, libraries, and temples. They searched and looted people's homes.
There was no reason for it. My children were scared to death, shaking with fear.
Students were used to carry the Cultural Revolution forward. For the first time, young people were encouraged to attack authority and the old hierarchy of the party. And the advice came from Mao himself. Bombard the headquarters, he said. To rebel is justified. This time, it wasn't the peasants in the country who did his bidding. The most educated and energetic generation in China was following his every word. The students felt excited and liberated as never before. The rising fervor was directed at Mao's rivals, including President Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping. Banners attacked Liu. Even small children were taught to denounce Liu. In schools, pupils attacked their teachers. In Shanghai, the teacher who taught her class to love Mao was now accused of being disloyal.
There were several hundred Red Guards wearing armbands. Others had military belts. Some had scissors in their hands, ready to cut people's hair. They chopped off my hair and beat me with sticks. They ordered me to produce the Red Book and to recite that revolution means rebellion and violence. That day I was wearing a white shirt without pockets, so I wasn't carrying the Red Book with me. They said, "If you're not carrying the Red Book, that means you aren't loyal to Chairman Mao. How dare you say you love Chairman Mao? You deserve to be overthrown." They ordered me to stand outside the playground from morning to night. But then they thought the punishment wasn't severe enough, so they got a big blackboard and pressed it down on me. They wanted to knock me down and keep me down forever.
Xiao Ailing was left with permanent injuries to her face. Up to 1 million were killed or driven to suicide. The country was now in the grip of a revolutionary mania that became more and more violent and destructive. The Red Guards attacked the 4 O's: old habits, old ideas, old customs, old culture. Books were burned and museums pillaged. The anarchy spread. Schools and hospitals closed. Offices and factories were in chaos.
In China, fathers and sons traditionally have close ties. But now you had to end your relationship. It was really sad, but you just had to do it.
Throughout China, party officials, intellectuals, people with foreign connections, former businessmen, millions were paraded and beaten in public. It is estimated that at least 400,000 people were killed.
We called him Secretary Zhang. He was the secretary at the state farm where my mother had worked. When the Cultural Revolution came, the Red Guards and workers dragged him out to struggle with. He was forced to kneel on the ground, on sand, broken stones, and glass, for more than 2 hours. He knelt with a heavy board hanging from his neck. It had his name written on it, with red crosses through it. That's how someone who was going to be shot was treated.
Chairman Mao had said, a revolution is an insurrection, an act of violence by which one class overthrows another. It's not a dinner party. We had to be rough and harsh and wild.
In my class, there was a student whose grandfather had owned a big fabric store, so he was a capitalist. I heard that everyone was to go to their house to criticize him. I got there late, and by the time I arrived, the capitalist had been beaten to death. I remember that his head was all swollen and dark and bruised. All those people beat him to death, including his own granddaughter, my classmate.
We organized our own Red Guards. We called ourselves the Red Guards of Mao Zedong thought. We were part of the rebels. We made armbands the same as the others. You say you're defending Chairman Mao? Okay, so am I. You're making revolution? So am I. Before and after every action, we used Mao's songs and quotations to encourage ourselves. Be resolute, be daring, overcome all obstacles, and be victorious.
In Beijing, embassies were attacked. Rebel factions occupied the foreign ministry for 2 weeks.
I was a little disgusted with the cult of Mao, and I said a few things. So I was labeled a reactionary student. At school, they held several criticism meetings against me. What was most unbearable, and even today still makes me uncomfortable, was that none of my friends would speak to me. I became totally isolated.
Initially, when communists come to power, and that doesn't matter where, let it be in Russia, in Poland, in Cuba, in Nicaragua, it doesn't matter, in China. Initially, they destroy about 10% of population, and that's very specific. This is used not just to kill enemies, they're not enemies, it's to restructure the fabric of society. It's a social engineering. Top intellectuals, best workers, best engineers, they would kill them all. And then they will try to restructure the new society.
It exterminated strictly according to Marx's teaching, the class enemies. In general, the process was pretty similar to the extermination of the Jews. First, the victims were ridiculed.
You get out and you create a crowd!
And publicly humiliated.
And you tell them they're not welcome!
And then they were killed. Millions of them.
Ведут сейчас с нами вместе разоблачить Еще можем больше разоблачить, которые остались. Никто не стесняйтесь, не бойтесь.
Look at this is crazy. Look at the anger, the hate.
You're a fucking anti-American.
I'm an anti-American?
Yeah.
You stupid bastard. I'm a fucking patriot.
Oh my, what's your problem, ma'am? Hi, have I seen you before somewhere? Mindless zombies. Fuck off, fuck off.
Fuck you, white people. Fuck you. Fuck you. You think you're better than us?
No, you weren't.
We have to fight back. There will be casualties on both sides.
Protesters followed Trump supporters to their cars as they left the convention center. Around the corner and away from police protection on San Carlos Street, a mob mentality took over.
These were pure attacks. Trump supporters, men, women, even the elderly, left this building last night and walked right into danger.
They're throwing things at the guy who has a Trump shirt on. Oh, he just got knocked in the back of the head. He just got punched in the face. And now they're rushing him. Death to America.
Wow. For Mao, communism could be achieved only through radical means, through continuing revolution, a never-ending process of struggle and change. Through the